Treehouse of Horror XIII is the first episode of The Simpsons' 14th season and the 13th Halloween episode. It first aired on the Fox network in the United States on November 3, 2002, 3 days after Halloween. It is the second Treehouse of Horror to have a zombie-related segment, and the last Treehouse of Horror to have 3 separate writers credited for writing 3 stories. In the episode, Homer buys a magic hammock that can create duplicates of anyone who lies in it in Send in the Clones. Lisa's call to end gun violence resurrects undead outlaws in the Fright to creep and scare harms, and Dr.It invites everyone in Springfield to his island resort where everyone is turned into half-man, half-animal mutants in the island of Dr.It. Plot: the Simpson family and Ned Flanders hold a séance in the hope of communicating with the spirit of Maud Flanders. Bart tries to trick Ned by dressing up as Maud's ghost, but the real ghost of Maud, now a demonic spirit, appears instead. Send in the Clones. In a parody of Multiplicity, Homer's hammock collapses while he is taking a nap. He purchases a new one from a passing vendor, who warns him that it carries a curse. Disregarding this, Homer lies down and discovers that the new hammock can produce clones of anyone who rests on it. He inspects the first clone and notices that it does not have a belly button. He makes clones to do all of his chores, which include helping Marge choose an outfit, visiting Grandpa to listen to one of his rambling war stories, and play a baseball game with Bart, Lisa, and Maggie. The clones are soon revealed to be more stupid than Homer. One clone kills Ned Flanders by cutting off his head with a chainsaw after Flanders asks if he can have his chainsaw back. Shocked by Flanders' wrongful death, Homer decides to get rid of the clones and the hammock. He bundles them in a truck and takes them to an isolated cornfield. When they arrive, Homer asks if anyone knows the way home. When 3 clones raise their hands, Homer shoots them, then abandons the rest of them, along with the hammock, presuming that none of the clones are smart enough to get anywhere without him. The clones use the abandoned hammock to make an army of Homer clones, many of which are mutations, including the Tracy Ullman Show version of Homer, a faceless Homer, a morbidly obese Homer, a Homer with thick black glasses, and Peter Griffin from Family Guy. The clone army consumes all of Gil Gunderson's crops and Gil himself, then attacks Springfield and destroys all of its buildings, except for Moe's Tavern, which reports record business. U.S. Army officials gather in the mayor's war room, and determine that the clones will eat up America by the next day. Lisa thinks of a solution to solve the problem, after getting the idea from Homer, who became upset when he found an empty donut box. She suggests that several helicopters hook gigantic sprinkled donuts on cables and lure the clones into Springfield Gorge to the doom. In the end, Marge is shocked to find that the Homer she has is a clone, and the real Homer was the first to die due to his obsession of donuts. Marge worries over the real Homer's death, until the clone Homer gives her a back rub. The Fright to creep and scare harms. In a parody of the Terminator, Bart and Lisa are at the Springfield Cemetery, mourning the loss of the pet goldfish, Goldie. Lisa inadvertently discovers the grave of William Bonney, a man who was killed at a young age by gun violence. According to his epitaph, he dreamed of a world without guns. In his memory, Lisa starts a gun control crusade, which makes Springfield 100% gun-free. Even the police no longer possess guns. The town is now defenseless, causing the corpses of William, Billy the Kid, Bonnie and his cohorts, the Hole in the Ground Gang, and Kaiser Wilhelm Iodine Monoiodide to rise from the dead. The gang wreaks havoc on the town, until Professor Frink invents a time machine, which Homer uses to go back in time to stop the gun ban and destroy the zombies. Homer Homer tells the citizens of Springfield to shoot at the zombies' graves, causing them to rise up and flee. Lisa feels guilty about banning guns because sometimes they are the answer. Suddenly, a more futuristic Homer comes in to warn them about guns that have destroyed Earth in the future. He is then shot by Moe, who has had enough of all this nonsense and plans to use Frank's time machine to find some caveman hookers. The Island of Dr. Hibbert. In a parody of H.G. Wells' The Island of Dr. Moreau, The Simpsons visit the Island of Lost Souls, where they find Dry Hibbert running the island's resort. Marge says there were rumors he has gone mad. The family has dinner with Professor Frink, who is transformed into a turkey as the main course. Marge explores the island, and is captured by Dr. Hibbert. She is then transformed into a blue humanized panther. She returns to her room and has violent animal sex with Homer. He realizes that she has been mutated, then asides that he should have realized this during the sex. Homer treks across the island looking for a cure to Marge's condition, but encounters Ned Flanders, who has been mutated into a cow centaur, in need of a milking. After Homer reluctantly milks him, Flanders takes him to meet other Springfield inhabitants who have also been turned into mutants, including Bart, Lisa and Maggie. Homer, initially appalled at what everyone has become, eventually embraces the concept of being a mutant animal who does nothing but eat, sleep, mate and roll around in its own filth upon realizing how well it fits in with his personal lifestyle. The segment ends with a contently mutated Homer in the form of a walrus, and the rest of the Simpsons and Springfield mutants lounging aside the resort's pool, intending to spend the rest of their days on Dr. Hibbert's resort. A deleted scene features Homer giving Marge a back scratch. Marge then coughs up a hairball and Dr. Hibbert immediately begins planning on changing the whole animal hybrids back into humans. Ending the entire Treehouse of Horror 13 episode concludes with an appearance by Kang and Kodos, observing that Dr. Hibbert's skull-shaped island resembles their Alien No. 4 production. This is the first Treehouse of Horror special to be called Treehouse of Horror instead of Simpsons Halloween special in the opening title sequence. This is also the first episode to use the digital ink and paint as a proof of concept, which led to the decision to have the Simpsons animation converted from traditional cel to digital ink and paint. It was a good episode to test technique on due to the cloning sequences, which required many different layers of animation for each of the clones. According to Al Jean, in the dub for the scene where Homer is being cloned, Matt Groening said, "Let's just throw a couple screams in there," and Sound Archive locator Norm supplied them. The effect coming out of the hammock is meant to resemble a Xerox light. This was one of 2 years that did not feature special Halloween names of the Simpsons staff in the credits. Al Jean said that to some people, the names took up so much space across the screen that the result was a green smear. They were brought back due to popular demand. The image of Homer strangling Homer was pitched in the writer's room by one of the audio commentators, because Nancy Kruse served as assistant director in this episode. Director David Silverman was granted enough time to do his own animated sequences for the episode, including a grandpa scene and a Frink scene. It was one of the last episodes in which he both directed and animated. The scene where the Homer clones fall into the gorge was supposed to be a reference to a similar event in the season 2 episode, but the idea was dropped due to time constraints. In preparation from the song sequence, David Silverman spoke to show composer Alf Clausen to write music for the team to animate ahead of time, to ensure the timing of the build-up and the song itself was working. Kevin Curran watched all the different film versions of The Island of Dr. Moreau before making his segment. The scene where the eyes eat the other eyes in the third segment was pitched by David Merkin after the table read. After realizing they had to populate the island with characters, the team hurriedly drew up many new designs for the animal equivalents and sent them off to get animated. Kang and Kodos were not originally in this episode, but they were later added in to keep with the tradition of including them, whether a whole segment or a small cameo devoted to them. Critical reception. Treehouse of Horror XIII has met with mostly positive reviews. On IMDb, the episode has a rating of 7.3/10 from 457 users. Send in the Clones and The Fright to Creep and Scare Harms were listed as number 8 and number 9 respectively in the AV Club article you said would be greeted as liberators. 10 Anxiety reflecting Simpsons Halloween segments. It said, Season 14's Treehouse of Horror is steeped in timely concerns, ripping inspiration from the headlines, noting that Send in the Clones, in which Homer clones himself, followed the U.S. Congress' second failed attempt to pass a comprehensive ban on reproductive human cloning. The AV Club also noted that The Simpsons reveled in zombie tales many years before it became the vogue again with Walking Dead mania. The Island of Dr. Hibbert appeared in a list of 11 most disturbing Treehouse of Horror segments from The Simpsons by Blastar. The site noted, the effect is as oddball as a convention hall full of Simpsons cosplaying furries. Dr. Frink's turkey death scene is rivaled only by the creepy scene where Homer has to milk cow Santor Flanders.